Happy Midweek, Northridge. I wanted to send you a little bit of a message today on staying encouraged and praying and interceding. We know we live in a very wicked world, one that is increasing in volume. And one of the things that we keep being reminded of is Jesus' words about praying and not losing heart. And sometimes it seems like there's just so much of a deluge of sin coming at us from all directions that we pray, but we gurgle. So one of the most unlikeliest places I found some encouragement on praying and how it makes a difference is in Exodus chapter 32, where Moses is on the mountain with God, and God is telling him what the children of Israel are doing at the very moment that God is giving them the covenant. So I want to read some verses to you, and then I want to read some excerpts out of the book Revive Us Again by Walter Kaiser as it pertains to just how important intercession is. Exodus 32, beginning in verse 7. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go, get down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded calf and worshipped it and sacrificed to it and said, 'This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt.' And the Lord said to Moses, 'I have seen this people, and indeed it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I will consume them, and I will make of you a great nation.' Then Moses pleaded with the Lord his God and said, 'Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak and say, He brought them out to harm them and to kill them in the mountains and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath and relent from this harm to your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of I give to your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever.' So the Lord relented from the harm which he said he would do to his people. And Moses turned and went down from the mountain, and the 2 tablets of testimony were in his hand." Walter Kaiser writes on this instance, he said, "There is no sense in trying to hide our sin or to pretend that it is not there or that it is not as bad as it first seemed. Sin will not just disappear by itself. Even if we bury it deep in our subconsciousness, it will still need to be dealt with. The reason is given in the text. God knows, hears, and sees all the words, thoughts, and deeds of humanity. For though Moses was on Mount Sinai, the Lord informed him that things had gotten out of hand on the plain below. Yahweh quoted verbatim to Moses what Aaron and the Israelites were saying. This in itself is another warning that nothing happens on earth without God knowing about it. God also saw the calf and was aware of their bowing down to it and worshiping it. Nothing is hidden from his eyes. That is the point we will need to come to realize in this whole matter of sin. It is not what we can get away with when those who might censor us would know about what happened or what was said. It is what God sees, hears, and records that is at the heart of the problem of sin. It is amazing that the people thought that neither Moses, whom they judged to be dead, nor God, their Lord and provider of the covenant, saw or cared about their partying and gross sin. But while men and women sported on the plain, their conduct was being viewed from above." And then he writes, God's indignation is clear from his very first word to Moses, "Your people whom you brought up out of Egypt." It is also clear that God regarded sin as lawlessness, for Israel had turned away from what he had commanded. No wonder he referred to them as stiff-necked, a metaphor referring to young bulls who refuse to have their necks brought under a yoke. In a striking figure of speech, God is depicted as if he were beyond all remedial discussion due to this great offense against his law and his person. The Lord spoke in such a way to test Moses. "Leave me alone," he said, "that my anger may burn against them and I may destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation." What seemed to be a command not to petition God in prayer on behalf of his sinful people was in reality a high testimony to the effectiveness and power of prayer. For if God could see that prayer would be so potent in persuading his offended holiness to exercise mercy, then we as believers had better flee more quickly and more frequently to this retreat. But there is more. God could also see that the man he had prepared these 80 years would do exactly what God in his sovereignty had taught him to do. Moses would besiege the Lord in prayer as a mediator on behalf of these sinners. The situation was as commentator George Bush assessed it. The words, which seemed to forbid, were really intended to encourage Moses in his suit. They are not indeed a positive command to him to pray in behalf of Israel, but they indicated what it was that would stay the divine hand from punishing, and were equivalent to saying, if you intercede for them, my hands are tied and I cannot execute the deserved vengeance. In that, I take this. God has given us a ministry of intercession. He intends us to wield it mightily. His mercy and grace are there to secure it. We have an opportunity before us today, in spite of everything that's happening, to take God at His word and pray and see what He'll do when we're faithful on our knees before that great throne of mercy. You guys have a good week.